My name is Tom. I'm the president of the Comedy Society at Aberdeen University, and after doing it for a little while, I've come to the conclusion that comedy is a fickle art form. With so many different genres of comedy emerging in the last few decades alone, the difficult question to answer for people who enjoy comedy is what actually makes something funny. Now, I don't have a degree in humor psychology. I don't know if that actually exists. But I have had 7 years' experience of doing stand-up and improvised comedy, and in that time, I've observed certain trends when you apply the concepts of time and space to comedy. So this is my theory on comedy, time and space. The first one I'm going to look at is time. Now, a lot of you will probably be able to relate to this first point in that adults and children don't laugh at things in the same way. I'll give a brief example, and you'll probably get it immediately. If I come up to you and go, peekaboo, peekaboo, what you're thinking is, get away from me, crazy man. But children, and especially babies, have no such standards when it comes to joking. They'll have fun with anyone who wants to joke with them. They will laugh in almost any situation that they're having interaction with someone in a playful way. And the great thing about it is that babies don't have object permanence, so next time they meet this person, it's not awkward. Another aspect of this is, that I've noticed, is cartoons or media that are shown to children and that adults observe as well. As a child, I really enjoyed the cartoon Tom and Jerry, and I'm sure a couple of you did as well. But as an adult, I watched the same programs, and instead of reveling in the colorful characters and exciting animation, I find myself critiquing the writing style and wondering why my younger self found such shallow characters and simplistic plots amusing. I think my next talk should be on the effects of time on becoming jaded. There is actually some scientific evidence to support the idea of age being related to humor appreciation. In the 2003 paper, Chami and Stuss studied the effects of age on humor appreciation in elderly participants and younger participants. And what they found was that elderly participants were significantly low on charts measuring humor appreciation. And they say that this is linked to our cognitive functioning abilities. So the conclusion that you can draw from this is that your best sense of humor developed when you were 17 or 18 years old. Although my perspective on it is that if you're able to drink, drive, and have sex, and you don't necessarily need to do your own laundry yet, it's a good time to be laughing. Now, the idea of something being funny along with time, the passage of time affecting humor, is not just a personal thing. It can be a society-wide thing. Back in June 2009, Michael Jackson passed away. And the media was littered with stories of how it was a tragedy and that we'd lost one of the greatest musical talents of our time. Less than half a year after Michael Jackson's death, the creators of South Park made an episode named Dead Celebrities, in which Michael Jackson was depicted as a ghost who couldn't move on to the afterlife because he hadn't fulfilled his lifelong dream of becoming a little white girl. The episode at the time received mixed reviews, being called the best episode of the season to tasteless and unnecessary at the same time. I personally watched the episode with my friends, and we all had a good time watching it, but the point is that this is 4 years after Michael Jackson has passed away, and most of the society-wide felt pain has probably dissipated. Had I seen the episode at the time, when it was released only half a year after his death, would I laugh? Maybe not. One last aspect of time and comedy is comedy timing. So the point to remember here is that a setup and a punchline need to have an arbitrary amount of time in between them in order for it to be recognized as a joke. I'll give you an example of the wrong application of this. A man walks into a bar, ouch. Now, you may have missed the punchline because I didn't put the gap in between the setup and the punchline. So this time I'm going to leave a slightly larger gap for you to understand it. A man walks into a bar. Ouch. Now, the strange thing is that by explaining that the joke wouldn't be funny if I put an abnormally large gap there actually makes it funny when I do it. That's a paradox I might look into later, but for now, let's look at comedy in space. Space is an odd concept to apply to comedy, and it leads me to my next question. If someone tells a joke in a black hole, does anyone hear it? The answer is no, by the way. Nothing escapes a black hole. Not even Steve McQueen. But on the topic of space and comedy, I like to refer to something that I call local relevance when doing comedy in different locations. So if I told a joke about Dundee in Aberdeen, it might get a good response. It does depend on how good the joke is, but people would understand what I was talking about. If you tell the same joke about Dundee in Guadalupe, you'll probably just get a couple of blank stares. Probably because you only told the joke in English and only 1% of the population in Guadalupe speak English, but also because nobody there knows where Dundee is, what it's like, or why it's crap. I jest. More than 1% of the population of Guadalupe speak English. Anyway, this idea of local relevance is very pertinent when you want to not make faux pas. So I was in London a couple of years back on a trip with my family, and we got into a taxi, and the taxi driver turns to us and says, "All right, where are you going?" In a very bad Cockney accent. And I almost very closely, on the tip of my tongue, very close to saying, "Ha, he sounds like he's from London." We're in London. So, local relevance, an important thing to remember. Space within jokes is also being affected by time. So in his book, The Premises of Comedy, David Constan talks about the differences between modern-day sitcoms and ancient Greek comedies. Now, I'll explain this in a bit more detail. In ancient Greek comedies, most scenes between characters were depicted outside in the streets of Athens or whichever city that happened that they were in, with houses painted onto the background, but not many people actually going inside of it. When you compare that to modern-day sitcoms, where almost every interaction is inside an interior location. Sitcoms such as Friends, The Big Bang Theory, or Black Books are perfect examples of this, with people rarely being seen inside out of houses. Now, there's probably a couple of theories as to why this is. It could be to do with the change in societal norms, or it could be to do with the difference in humor appreciation in exterior and interior locations. But my theory is this. If I had the choice between cracking jokes with my friends in a spacious, comfy, well-lit, air-conditioned flat of some kind, or standing in the beating sun of Greece with nothing to protect me but a pair of sandals and a bedsheet, you get my point. So, location is a very important part of comedy. It does bring up the faux pas again of what you're saying and where you're saying it. If I tell a joke about smoking in a comedy club, best picture ever, then it might get a good response. It does depend on how good the joke is, but it might get a good response compared to if I told the same joke about smoking in a lung cancer ward. Not many laughs would be elicited in that situation. Not because it's not funny, it's just very difficult to laugh when you've got lung cancer. And here we tread the line between funny and tasteless once again. So we've looked at space and we've looked at time, and we've seen them in separate occasions when intersecting with comedy. But let's put them all together into one situation. So the joke goes as follows. Jesus walks into an inn. He goes up to the counter, places 3 nails on the counter, and says to the innkeeper, "Put me up for the night." Now that joke is fine to tell in our modern time and space, but can you imagine the difference in responses had that joke been told in, say, Jerusalem, about half an hour after the crucifixion? Maybe not quite as funny. So we have comedy, time, and space in different locations, different times. But what does comedy in time and space look in the current time and location? Well, it's It's everyday interactions, it's observational comedy, it's speaking with your friends, it's interacting with your audience. Peekaboo. I want to leave this talk on a slightly more sober note. As I said at the beginning, comedy is a fickle art form, and it's going to be a long time before anyone actually figures out what it is that makes something funny. But the question that we might want to ask, and it might be more pertinent, is, do we want to know? Mark Twain said it best. Explaining humor is a lot like dissecting a frog. You learn a lot in the process, but in the end you kill it. I've been Tom McGinn. Thank you very much.